and welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun, or as I'm rebranding for Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Rock Paper Magical Bow Thing. I really hope the channel name isn't taken. This is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, one of my all-time favourite games, certainly the most beautiful. What amazes me is how much has changed in this sequel and without disrupting the magic of the first game. So I'm just going to dash through it as fast as I can, like a little forest spirit trying to avoid getting crushed. And crushed again, and again, and again. Oh, and again. Okay, listen, this is going to be mentally scarring. Let's move on. The game is out on March the 11th, included on the Xbox Game Pass on both Xbox One and PC, so you could be playing it for pennies. And here's why you should. To say that the opening hours of Will of the Wisps feels like Ori and the Blind Forest is a bit misleading. They feel like Blind Forest stuck on fast forward. Powers you amassed over several hours are practically thrown at you. Double jump, wall jump, dash, technically from the definitive edition. Most importantly, you get the bash ability even more quickly. This is the power that lets you springboard from enemies or projectiles, firing them off in the opposite direction as you fling yourself to new heights. Turning Ori into a pinball this early in the game means Moon can get sneaky with hidden bits from the off and focus on adding new moves, such as this grapple, which lets Ori cosplay as Spider-Man. It's a mystic tendril that attaches to lamps and other climbable surfaces, such as these grassy walls. Zipping towards lamps may bring to mind the bash power, but the grapple reach is longer and you don't have that brief pause to decide where you want to jump next. Once the grapple is going, you need to keep your hands in the cart at all times, as you're committing to that ride whether you like it or not. Very useful when you're hooning through what looks like an intestinal track made out of spikes. And I love the added scale it gives to the chase sequences, where that extra long reach lets you zip Ori out of a watery grave. And what better place to test it than the Wellspring, a new dungeon that starts with a hilarious panning shot of all the things that are going to kill you. There's those purple things, that monkey's probably got rabies, a big load of spikes, some fun round spikes, oh yeah, more round spikes here, oh god, even more of them, we're getting quite high, probably drop to your death from here, oh, more spikes, and spikes on the roof, in case you don't get the point. That's a spike joke, get the point? Anyway. What I adore about the Wellspring is that, like the dungeons in Blind Forest, it has a big mechanical hook all of its own. In this case, you are murdering the plant/creature that is living inside the cogwheels and freeing up the building in the process. Of course, the more plant you kill, the more dangerous the level becomes, as giant wheels begin to spin over pits of spikes, and Ori uses this new climbing grass to hold on for dear life. I must admit I'm a tiny bit obsessed with levels that transform in front of your eyes and force you to constantly realign yourself in new platforming layouts. It's a trick that was amazing in Super Mario Galaxy and Rayman Legends, and seeing this gigantic room rotate into fresh platforming calibrations is just achingly clever stuff. It's also here you get the juiciest taste of what higher resolutions bring to the game, maintaining all that pin-sharp detail as the camera pulls back and back and back. Another great idea, the smaller wheels spin so fast they can fling Ori further, adding even more twists to his already acrobatic moveset. It's hard to think of another recent platforming hero, Saint Mario aside, where the designers had such fun with pure physicality. Loads of games let you jump and dash, but very few will fling. It's a great verb we don't see enough in games. And of course, the moment you grasp the basics, Moon slam you into one of their signature chase sequences. One tiny change I want to highlight here. I spoke to the game's composer Gareth Coker, and he told us how he subtly changed the music in the chases to reflect an older and wiser Ori. He says Ori isn't a kid anymore. He's done some stuff, went through quite a ride in Blind Forest, and the music reflects that. Where in the first game the chases are a terrifying thing for Ori, these chase sequences are more, oh, am I doing this again? It's a subtle change in how the music makes you feel. I love Gareth's idea that the music is from Ori's point of view, showing us what he's thinking as the madness unfolds. If you are into Coker's music, and come on, who isn't, you're in for a treat. He told us the album clocks in at 186 minutes compared to the original's 92, so that's a lot of tunes to come. Music to our ears. I mean, literally. Along similar lines, Gareth also says boss fights should feel like, oh my god, I've never experienced this before, and it's easy to see why. Where Blind Forest never grew its combat beyond smaller enemies, Will of the Wisps is stuffed with boss brawls. I've seen a couple in the first 2 hours. A giant beetle is a proper old school bit of 2D boss design. He has a couple of attacks, signposts them clearly, and pushes Ori's moveset to breaking point as you dodge them. He even has a fat orange butt in case you don't know exactly where to stick your laser sword. But I'm more interested in the way bigger boss encounters weave together fighting and fleeing. I get to meet Howl, a giant wolf you have to escape before turning on him with a flaming torch. But Gareth also tells us about encounters that shift from combat to chase and then back to combat, letting Ori turn the tables in a heroic finale. Either that or you'll throw your 14th controller out the window in a rage, or mouse and keyboard if you really want to wreck your house. Mentioning fighting there is a great time to dig into Ori's newfound love of extreme violence. Yes, Ori and the Will of the Wisps enters Ori's stroppy teenage years as he decks woodland creatures with swords, mallets and arrows. The idea of adorable Ori finally snapping and going full on John Wick is adorable, but I was worried that the combat would weigh down such a light-footed hero. The game's producer, Daniel Smith, joked with me that fighting had to be addressed in Will of the Wisps as a matter of continuity. If you recall, your attacks in the first game came from Ori's sidekick Sign, who was, spoiler alert, placed into a tree to heal the forest. It would be pretty unkind to tear that poor creature out of the tree for round 2. So Moon turned to melee combat. You get the Spirit Edge, a beam sword with a delightfully swishy combo that makes it very easy to hang in the air battering mosquito things, or chopping the heads off creatures beneath you. Considering that the first game's weapon was a homing projectile that did much of the work for you, this is a far more physical action, and without losing Ori's ethereal nature. Speaking of ranged combat, the real revelation this time is the Spirit Arc bow. After Blind Forest's homing spark, it's so great to actually aim the bow and take responsibility for your actions. Okay, the light burst grenade in Blind Forest Definitive Edition was maybe a dry run for this, but here it opens up a huge range of Zelda-like puzzles as you splat switches to unfold new platforms or try to push around a heavy block using a combination of switches. If you saw how much I messed up this basic puzzle in my demo hands-on, you'd probably take away my YouTube channel. Producer Daniel Smith says they tested Ori's Brawling in sandbox combat rooms, and I think some of this influence remains in Will of the Wisps in all the places you're locked in with a bunch of nasties and have to claw your way out, like that mad prison hole Bane lived in The Dark Knight Rises. But you know, cute. Again, there was a bit of this in Blind Forest, but here you actually look forward to the fights. This really comes into play in Spirit Shrines, which throw waves of enemies at you with the promise of a reward at the end, such as another slot for Ori's shard modifiers, which I'll explain in a second. These contained fights remind me of Guacamelee, which is another Metroidvania with a deep brawling system. In fact, the way Ori's bash move chucks creatures around is just like the luchador throws in that earlier game. To Moon Studios' credit, they've not sacrificed momentum with any of this. Quick energy sword combos have a wicked sting to them, and the way the 3 attacks are mapped to face buttons on a controller allows you to slip from blade to bow to fiery explosion with total ease. When Daniel tells us about being able to enter the ability radial dial and reconfigure attack buttons mid-combo, you begin to see this as Ori's audition for the next Devil May Cry. Hell, he can even use that grapple attack to fly towards enemies, which has big Nero energy. Honestly, after a few hours the combat moves so seamlessly, you begin to hanker for a combo meter, wanting to see how much you can stitch everything together. It's really great stuff. And if you are still struggling, this is where the shards come in, new modifiers and buffs that you can equip to gradually respec Ori. If you've played Hollow Knight, it's basically the charm system. The producer, Daniel, says one of the aims is to flatten the skill tree, which actually sounds like the kind of deforestation Ori wouldn't support. What it means is no skill tree to work through, so no having to unlock bad skills to get the one you actually want. Already in these early hours we find Splinter that splits arrows, Quick Shot that speeds up the bow, Magnet to absorb orbs, and Overcharge that halves energy costs but doubles the damage taken, which is an enticing bit of risk versus reward. Or how about Sticky that lets Ori cling to walls? That last one was an unlockable ability in Blind Forest, and the fact that it's now an optional skill shows how much you can reshape Ori. If you want to go speedrunning, maybe you don't want Ori gluing to surfaces, but if you struggle with platforming, then equip away. Some shards can also be upgraded, at least 3 levels of upgrade from what I've seen, so you can add even more arrows or shoot even faster. A thing I love about the shards is that they are a hidden collectible with genuine purpose. If you work hard to find one, it can have a positive impact. And this logic extends through Will-o'-the-Wisps. Sure, you've got traditional health and energy increases, but Moon also introduced side missions that add a layer of narrative purpose to a lot of items. This might be finding a hidden item requested by a character. This compass needle helps an explorer in the Wellspring, for example. Or maybe finding characters is the quest itself. There appears to be a huge trading sequence, like in Zelda Link's Awakening, where you take one item to one character to get a new item for the next character. What waits at the end? I hope it's an unlockable John Wick costume for Ori. Also worth noting, going back and forth between characters makes this a more non-linear experience, something Daniel says we'll really feel in the second act, where the questline forks in multiple directions and you can tackle main challenges as you want. Another item you collect from well-disguised hidey holes is Gorlak ore, which you use to revitalise Wellspring Glade, which acts as a new central hub area. Handing ore to Grom the Builder starts a grand project of urban renewal. Building a spirit well lets Ori teleport out at will, while clearing the thorns looks like it opens up hidden areas in the glade. Next thing you know, it'll all be hipster coffee shops and Ori can't afford to live here anymore. The hub is home to many NPCs, which shows how much fuller Will-o'-the-Wisps is compared to Blind Forest. There are the Mocky looking for a home, that's more ore for Ori to collect. And there's a creepy guy called Twillin who will sell you shards that you won't find in the world and will upgrade the ones you already have. Along a similar line is Ofa, who sells new moves to equip to your face buttons. It's really going for that wider RPG vibe. I'm not really sure what his deal is, but he'll show you your detailed stats breakdown, which feels a bit like rubbing your embarrassing death count in your face. Speaking of death, one change I was unsure about is dropping the Soullink system of the first game. In Blind Forest, instead of automatic saving, you'd place manual checkpoints using your energy, the risk being that the more checkpoints you dropped, the less combat power you had. It was a delicious risk versus reward mechanic that gave the game distinct character. As I say, the system is now dead, ironic as it usually saves you from death. Daniel Smith admits that for every person who loved it, there was someone who frustrated. Smith also makes the case that losing Soullink frees up another controller face button, which enables that fluid combat system outlined earlier. Will-o'-the-Wisps uses autosaves to track your progress, but it isn't the only way Moon are smoothing sharp edges. Where in the last game one wrong save could lock you into an impossible situation, maybe low on health in a particularly nasty platforming sequence, you can now open the menu and abandon your run, return to the Wellspring Glade to level up weapons and abilities and shards, and then come back later to have another go. This is on top of the returning difficulty modes introduced in Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. Ultimately, the challenge is still stiff, though it's definitely a gentler intro than the original, or maybe I'm just an Ori pro, or maybe not. And if you do like to challenge yourself, you should turn to the Spirit Trials, which are competitive time trials and a huge nod to the game's speedrunning community. To trigger a time trial, you need to find both the start and the finish line. I didn't get to do this in my demo, so what you're watching is old Gamescom footage. Once you do, you can race from A to B, accompanied by ghost replays of other players. Beat those ghosts, and in your next race, you'll have a higher bracket of ghosts to take on. It's not the first game to do this. If you've played Mario Odyssey on Switch or Rayman Legends, you'll know how addictive these time trial modes can get, especially once you start learning new tricks from the other ghosts. Engage with it and you could be pulled into the world of speedrunning, and I look forward to donating to you at next year's Awesome Games Done Quick. One creature that won't be competing in the time trials is this giant bear. I'm always interested in the tricks Metroidvanias use to block off progress until you have the right equipment, and I'm pretty sure this is the first time a designer has used a massive bear. I love this guy, even if I did explode a fireball in his face. My apologies to Yogi. Anyway, I think a bear the size of a bus is a good place to wrap up. I hope this video has captured some of my excitement for Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It's not every day you get a sequel to one of your favourite games, although it's arguably happening a lot in March. Moving swiftly on, please share your thoughts on Ori and the Will of the Wisps in the comments, and if you have any questions about what I played or talked about, I will answer those in the comments too. If you did enjoy this video, I'd love if you subscribed, or at the very least, watch some of our other videos to see what the channel is all about. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye for now.